right, so I can't hardly believe this, but we've got the man, Country Steve, and this kind of, I'm going to use his own words against him. He says, it pains me to say, he's used that in a lot of other things we've done, producer dude.
Yeah, right.
But the people want Country Steve.
They do.
Now, see, here's the deal. See, I've known Steve a very long time, 20 plus years.
I've known him a year.
Yeah.
He was our camera boat. He was our camera boat driver.
No, years ago. Okay.
It has to be a couple of years of knowing Ted.
Yeah.
11 years.
You and me go back way.
Me and you were pushing 20.
So Steve was on that camera boat on our first television.
Absolutely.
Shoot.
Steve,
that was him.
Steve's been
the day that I said, "Can we duck around the island?" That day.
I didn't want to go there this quick, but let's just go there.
Right.
So literally, let's bring this back, and this is not how we're starting, but we're going to go there anyhow because there's no agenda here, and
it's Country Steve.
It's Country Steve, but there's no, it's going to go where it's going to go. So we're shooting the first episode of my TV show, The Local Catch. Tad is the producer. He works for the production company. I'm like a co-producer and the host.
Been trying to tape a fishing show. Never been on the water with the camera.
Doesn't know. He's a football guy doing stuff, and he runs the show. And what he does on his day is very good at. But when, he's a tripod guy. That's what we joke with, call these guys in the boats. He's a tripod guy. We're out, we leave, and we're going about 17 or 18 miles.
In 3 to 5 footers and 25 mile an hour winds.
That's legit.
First time out of the box for the show.
That's legit. And I've got, in fairness, again, I hate giving, compliments on something where it can get back on me, but I got Steve as my camera boat guy because he's going to make it happen. He's a great driver, and I know I don't have to worry about that like I would other people. So we start setting up on stuff, and we catch a couple fish quick, and then I'm like, man, this ain't right. The current was wrong and this and that. And Tad says to me, well, no, we need to go over by that island and go this way and catch them.
Out of the wind.
No. It was because of the light, and I need an island, and there's just all water here. And I'm like, you gotta be freaking kidding. Like, what kind of clown did they send me? And then you remember the other camera boat guy, or the camera guy that was in the boat with Steve, goes, hey, do you have a raft you can let me out behind the boat?
Cuban.
The Cuban refugee, yeah, John. And I'm just like,
Elian Gonzalez.
Dude, and that shit show known as The Local Catch was actually a really good deal. But I mean, we lasted whatever it was.
Well, I did not know
9 or 10 years.
That was Country Steve and the other.
Well, it wasn't. That was just Big Steve.
Okay, but I did not know that I had met him before our.
That was Big Steve.
Yeah, I did not know I had met him before, prior to him gaining the moniker of Country Steve on that day.
And truthfully, the moniker, and that's where I'm going with this. This is why the people, I didn't really have a choice in the matter. We had to sit down and do this because
people demanded it.
They really do. I mean, I'm sitting there eating in a restaurant the other day, and you guys like, hey man, Country Steve for life. I'm at the boat launch doing a shoot, and the guy's like, where the hell's Country Steve at? And then it's insane. Of all the stuff that we do, the Country Steve, they love you. They love Country Steve. A few people even say, I'm too tough on you.
No.
But they don't know the Country Steve I know. Don't ever feel bad. Tad?
Well, that Country Steve's the one that lost part of my microphone. It flew out into the lake. And then he says, I don't really care. I don't feel bad. It's fine. It's fine. I don't care. You might think I care, but I don't care.
So that's why we're doing this, because people want to know about Country Steve. And I'm going to tell you, so it's a very long story, and some of this, of course, we can't even put on because this is a kid-friendly show. But I had fished against Steve because early in my career, I fished a lot of tournaments, like a lot. And fishing some of the different ones, I had, I guess a nicest way of saying it, here, this is a backhanded compliment, is me and Steve always ended up in the same places. But I was like, this guy's kind of a jackhole. Okay, and I was fishing because the business end of things. I at that point fished a tournament, several tournaments in a row with a guy who he basically sucked, and Steve was actually laughing at me. I don't know the guy, laughing at me because he knows like what I'm saying to this guy because we're that close. We're fishing structure, and Steve is laughing at me because I'm having a tournament. I even said a tournament within my own tournament in my own boat because the guy was like, "No, we're gonna do this," and Steve is outright just laughing at us, and I'm like, "Dude, this guy's a fucking jackass." But we always ended up in the same place, and then you fast forward. I don't know the time frame. I'm bad at these things, but maybe a year or something. And a mutual friend of ours says, hey, there's this other guy that's shooting this TV show at a certain place up in Canada, and he says, hey, you need to go help him out. And I'm like, and then I had a sponsor say the same thing, and I'm like, I don't know any of these people. I don't know, I ain't got no skin in the game. And so we'll just leave that guy anonymous. But basically, that guy called us both up and said, hey, you guys need to get together. So I literally meet Steve, and can I tell him what happened in your driveway? I mean, is that too much?
Oh, no.
So
fine.
you're gonna have to get the bleep ready button, baby.
Well, I like how we have Country Steve on, and he said nothing yet. It's just been us blabbing.
Oh, it's great. It's just because he's gonna come guns out with this one. I mean, you can. I want to hear when I'm done blabbing. I want to hear your take on this or where I'm off or whatever you think. But so I get put together with Country Steve, and we're gonna go on this trip of like an 8-hour drive. And we're taking basically most of my gear, and
yeah, because you sold your boat.
Yeah, that's what it was. I didn't have my boat yet. I had sold mine, so we're taking a lot of my gear. And you don't know this guy. We're going to drive 8 hours in a truck in some cabin and help film a TV show that we're not even the part of, but we're there because we're helping out, which we'll get into that show. But
helping out one of my good friends, my tournament partner.
Yeah, but it wasn't him, but it was really indirectly, which is another whole deal. So long story short, I pull into this guy's driveway, aka now Country Steve, and this lady comes out and is just ripping me an asshole. No clue who she is.
I wouldn't say lady, but yeah.
And it turns out it's Country Steve's first wife. And I look her right in the face. I put my window down and I was like, listen here, you get ready. Who the do you think you are? And I was like, get the out of the way before I run you over. There's a lot of bleeps that you just had to use there. And any rate, pull around and I'm like, I'm about ready to go home because I'm thinking, hey, this is, I find out, hey, this is this guy's kind of wife, but about to be ex-wife. But you don't know like where that's going to go, right? And he's like, oh yeah, I see you met the, I don't know, what did you call her at that point in time?
She's crazier than a crap house rat, man. She just absolutely.
So I pull in there, and here's this dude. He's just like me, and producer, you'll agree, right? Me, like you could say things like he could call me something. I don't even like raise an eyebrow, right. Quite literally, and vice versa. And here I just call this guy's wife like the nastiest stuff I could ever think of, and he's just like, okay, anyhow. So we're gonna put a little air in this tire, and then we're gonna get on the road. You cool? Park over there. And I'm like, you know what? I think me and this guy could get along. And there's few things that I don't know if the statute of limitations is up, but we literally long haul an 8-hour drive, and Steve was driving 400 miles an hour. We indirectly ended up on an episode of Cops. Do you want to tell them about the barrels in the car racing? Do you remember that?
No, I don't recall it. All I know is it said 100 miles an hour. That's what I did there. It was 100 kilometers. Whatever. True story. I can only tell you so much, but this is, and again, interrupt me when you start remembering this, because this is 20 years ago. We're driving on a highway. He is driving literally 100 miles an hour. I'm like, dude, we ain't even going to get there. Now, this is with a 21-foot Ranger boat, okay? And there are, where we're at, we're literally driving 100 miles an hour. There are soccer moms, correct me if I'm wrong, in minivans that are passing us. Yeah, they were passing us. I mean, sometimes like we were standing still. I mean, we might not have been doing 100, but we were doing 80 miles an hour to 85, legit.
You were doing at least that was steady, but then you were passing doing it was. I was like, oh my god.
Yeah, because the other truck, the owner of the other truck of the boat that was following us, ripped into my tournament partner. Like, why are you driving so fast? You guys have been. What did he say? We're doing like 83. That was the average speed that we had.
So I just want you to picture this, where there's a car driving that was like a $500 car in the opposite lane. Okay, it's like 3 or 4 lanes wide, opposite separate median. And we watch this thing go by, and all of a sudden there's just like a dozen cop cars. And even though we're going that fast, do you know where I'm going now? There's no way you could read like what the car doors say, producer dude. But they were all different colors, and you know what I mean? You're like, there's a lot of different municipalities. Like, this dude's been getting chased for a while.
Yeah.
Well, all of a sudden, all you see is like lights, and then they're gone. Well, the dude cut through the median somewhere and came back our way. They did this a couple times. So like over probably a 40-minute period or whatever it was, the dude's coming back around.
So, wait. So the guy gets up ahead, and then he spins back, and he comes back.
It would be like I-75, but separate median. He somehow cut through the lanes. And dude, he is just absolutely bumper cars, and people are just going. It was like ambulances, but there was none. And there are just cop cars. And every time we see him, there's more chasing because more people are getting involved. Pretty soon he comes up behind us now. Okay, do you remember this?
Vaguely.
This is how jacked up Country Steve is. He doesn't even remember, like, insanity.
It's just a normal occurrence.
Honestly, it should have been called Crazy Steve. Now he's Country Steve because Mrs. Country Steve #2 is much
brought the reins in.
Yes, much more complimentary than the non-human being that #1 was. But at any rate, so here we are, and this car comes up, and Steve's like, "Hey, I got this."
We're gonna pinch him off. So, producer dude, visualize this. We're coming over an overpass where it like dips down because they only cut so much out for this thing to go up because there's like big trucks and stuff that are going underneath us, right? So major road, like it's starting to dip down. There's an overpass. You know how they got the barrels full of water or sand?
Yep.
Who uses his boat to tail whip this psycho into it? Crazy Steve.
Yeah, that's almost as bad as the Coast Guard one, but we'll leave that.
No, the Coast Guard one, that's too much for today. So yeah, I start this trip off with this guy driving 100 at times. He tail whips a dude who obviously doesn't care about anything, and he's got 20 cop cars following him at this point. He tail whips him, which for people know, he basically you whip it,
jerked the truck so that the trailer went out.
Right, and this dude dive bombed into it, and he's like, mission accomplished, don't he? You know, so we may have gotten pulled over and talked to, and may have, the guy said, Country Steve, in so many words said to him, because I don't remember exactly the words 20 years later, but the guy told us, like, he was so he couldn't even talk, he was so mad, and he told us to get out of there, but he was like, Country Steve said to him, he's like, hey, I did what you guys had 20 cops you couldn't do. He's like, it's all done. It's over with.
I ended it for him.
He ended it for him. And truthfully, this trip, as many trips as I have been on as a full-time fishing guide or professional in 20 years, it's still, and I would imagine, is it for you one of the most memorable trips?
Oh, yeah, the fishing was just phenomenal. I mean, we've been there a couple times after, and it still has not been duplicated what we did, even with the fish that we lost. So if somebody is wondering now that they kind of know what we're going to do with Country Steve, like, hey, do you want to hear about this? I'm just going to give you a little teaser. We caught 23 walleyes over 10 pounds scaled in one day on this trip. One day. Yeah. Most insane day of big fishing, but then we're going to talk about the big fish, but we'll get there slow. So kind of visualize this thing. There was so many shenanigans that happened, but one of my favorites is we get there and we're at this lodge, and the guy basically had negotiated with this TV show. And you got to remember, not that I'm or Country Steve is refined in any standpoint, but 20 years ago there was more like razor blade edges. Yeah. My tournament partner lost a lot of friends due to me. if you remember. Yeah, I do. So, but and you remember, I was always telling you even then early on, I'm like, dude, you can't do this to me. And I mean, like, I can't, I can't get in this stuff. And you're like, yeah, whatever. Rat boat, you can't do this. Yeah, you're like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, whatever. So we pull into this lodge, and again, I'm no stranger to this, even though I've done a lot more since then. We pull into this place. It's amazing. The boat launch is about 30 feet from where we're staying. They give us this brand new cabin that normally would go for a couple grand a night. Okay, producer dude, like 5-6 bedrooms. Now we've got the camera people, we've got the camera boat, we've got the assist guy, we got the host. So I mean, there's 8 guys maybe staying. And remember, the show wasn't about us. Right. We are there only to help. Like, honestly, this is like an expense paid, producer dude, this is like an expense paid trip where, hey, go help out, no big deal. It's kind of cool. It's like going on a vacation and you get to watch somebody's kids for an hour type of thing, and you get to go on the trip for free. Kind of one of those deals. And we always kind of want to go there. We both got talked into it. Best, worst thing we ever did. So anyhow, to not digress too much, we're at this place and I'm trying to kind of figure the whole thing out, and I go into the cabin, and we go in there, there's no sheets. You remember this? Oh yes, yeah.
Do you want to finish? Don't make me talk all the time.
Keep going. No, I'll let you talk.
Make sure you interject here.
This is the most one-sided.
It's always going to be this way. I am not giving interviews or TV.
We should have known. Well, not that. Not only that, Ross likes to talk a lot.
I do. But but
he brings it to life more than I would. That's a fact. I can interject.
Make sure you give us full country version and stop me at any point. So I'm at this deal and I recognize this guy that owns this lodge from doing some work with a magazine who I've done some work with at that point.
Right.
And so he kind of says, hey, we kind of have a little bit of mutual admiration. If you just, hey, immediately there's a little street cred, it's a little bit of bonding or whatever. And I'm like, hey man, we don't know where we're going. We're trying to help these guys out. We're trying to figure this out. And it became very clear very quickly that these dudes did not want any outside input. And why are you here? What are you doing? I mean, it was a cold shoulder. Is that fair?
Cool. Yeah. I mean, they were. I don't want to say. The further you get up in Canada, the ruder they get. Is that fair? I mean, is that fair? I mean, they shut the doors on you. They just in the fishing community they clam up. I don't know.
I'm picturing a color-coded map.
But everywhere else in Canada, they're a really polite group of people. Maybe they seen us on Cops at night. I don't know.
Cops Toronto, yeah.
I don't know.
But Cops,
I mean, most Canadian people are really, really nice, but this certain guy he really thought he was the cat's meow.
So I want you to visualize this, and maybe somebody please tune in and comment below or whatever, that again, this cabin rented, you got to think about this, for like a couple $1,000s a night, okay?
Yeah, it'd sleep 12 people.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was worth it or it wasn't, but it was a brand new cabin on the water. The boat launch was close. Okay, I get it.
That's Canadian money. I mean, so, we're down to $1,000 on this.
Well, whatever, okay? But again, I'm digressing again, but so I said to the guy, I go in there and I'm like, now, visualize this because you can see where the problems are going to occur. Like one bed's got a king bed, another one's got like 3 bunk beds, another one's got 2 twin beds, and then one room's got 2 queen beds. And we've got like roughly 8 guys on this team that is going to be there for 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. And we roll in there and there's no sheets on any of the beds. So no towels, no sheets. And we are in the middle of nowhere. Like, this isn't like, hey, we'll run down to Walmart or Dollar General at the end of the road. Like, there's nothing. Like, we're a 2-hour ride to get anything. And again, me and Steve had done enough traveling at this point. Like, we have 3 extension cords instead of 1. We've got extra line. We've got all the stuff we know that we're going to need. But when I looked into this, like, hey, this cabin's a couple grand a night. Like, you only bring what you bring. And me and you have certain little toiletries and things because we just know. But, like, right. I didn't bring bed sheets, bro. I didn't bring...
Or blankets, no.
Yeah,
who would think?
So we go in to talk to this guy, and you think this is a simple solution, right, producer dude? Like, oh, here's stacks of sheets. Here you go, no problem. The guy literally was like, the fuck's your problem, man? Americans, dumb Americans. And I was like, oh, okay, man. I was like, well, I looked on your website and it didn't say anything about bring your own sheets and blankets and pillows. But I said, can you forgive us because we're here helping to promote your business, and could you just give us some sheets? And he lit us up. He was.
I mean, we've been on the road for I think it was 8 hours at least. We didn't leave early. We left at 3 o'clock. So we got there at 11, somewhere in there.
I don't remember.
So worked all day, no showers, on the road for 7-8 hours. Get there, we're greasy, we're slimy. Guy said, yeah, no sheets. And he's going back and forth.
Like, he's not going to give the sheets.
I'm not going to give you any sheets. I said, dude, those are brand new mattresses. I don't care. I will sleep in there. I will grease it. I will not take a shower for 3 days. It is your call. It is your bed. You take it how you want. And I just walked out the door. I don't know what was said after that, but miraculously, we got sheets and towels, and it was handled.
He said, I think the almost a verbatim quote, because it's kind of etched in my brain. So he's like, if you want me to wipe my greasy ass body all over your brand new, that's cool, bro. But I just want to give you a heads up because this, you did this deal. Like,
and he said it very calmly. Just
no. It was raised voice. There might have been an expletive in there, but
it's kind of like with Big Head. Like, they don't really scream. Right. They don't say it calm, but you get the
point. Right.
You get the message.
It doesn't get louder.
Right. No.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to. It doesn't need.
He got the point. I mean, this guy was just unbelievable.
Which,
like I said, most Canadians are nice. This guy was not. We butted heads the whole time.
So we're in a couple 100 feet of water here, and where it dips off, and this guy that's supposedly helping is just yelling at me and Steve, "You don't know what the hell you're doing!" And we mark some fish, and I tell Steve, I'm like, "Dude, whip it, let's go back through there." And we went back through there, and we caught a walleye, dude, that was like 28 inches, but it weighed like 12 something. Do you remember that? And I thought we had a king salmon on or something, because it was like vertical, like it was straight up and down. And this guy was still mad at us. Remember that? How they were all angry. Like, you think I'm angry?
All of them were angry, except for, the guy we went there with, who's one of my good friends.
Yeah, they were just angry. So we catch this fish, and this guy's like angry. We caught this 12.5 pounder, so we're kind of telling the camera guys, like, "Hey, this is the setup." And ironically, that whole program that we were doing, which I don't know we need to say what that was, but that was kind of the program for the subsequent number of years that we went there and did that again. And we just kind of, I don't want to say lucked into it, but a little bit, I guess. At any rate,
I would say, yeah, we lucked into it, because we set up.
Even the colors and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, even with colors. I mean, we didn't have. I guess it was good we didn't have all the colors that we carry nowadays, because we were able to dial it in really quick, really fast. And the terrible thing is we had those Daiwa 300s with the braid. Remember trying to reel fish in with?
It's terrible.
You're letting out 180 feet of line or whatever it was, and you're 300 because it's so.
I felt like I was using a thimble to try to wind up like construction rope or something.
It was forever.
So, and again, a little bit of it, we're looking at these guides and I'm looking at their equipment, and I'm like, these guys aren't set up to do what we're doing. They're just not. I mean,
they weren't set up to fish. Even the top guide, that I don't even remember his name, but I think you still get in contact with him once in a while. But it was quite comical, especially this guy that owned the resort was telling us what to do, and we even went out at night.
Oh, the night
it was just a slaughter fest, and I guess it wasn't a slaughter fest, but I mean, we caught 8 fish on one.
But they're all giant. They're all over 10 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. I mean, never seen anything like it before, and I don't know if we ever will.
So, I mean, I'm hesitant because some of this I know we can't really tell. Some of it I don't want out there for other reasons aside from whatever. But so
lawsuits pending.
Yeah. So we end up basically outgassing everybody. And we did that today. Me and producer dude went 50 miles on Lake Erie today, and we smoked them, by the way. But we outgassed everybody, right? So these people all were fishing like here, and their gas tanks weren't big enough. And me and Steve were like, "Dude, we got a credit card. We're gonna do this."
Yeah, we didn't have a problem with that, but I guess it wasn't outgas them. It's just they could not put it together. Like,
I don't think their boats could have went where we went.
Well, my boat's been a lot of places it shouldn't have been that one, if I recall the second trip.
I actually almost wrecked Country Steve's boat.
Yeah.
I
don't even know how you got it out of their yard. But,
okay, I'll get to that, because I think that could still get me in jail. But nevertheless, so we're making these, I'll just say, a very long run no matter what. At the end of our fuel reserves, no matter what you're doing. And we got on fish that I can confidently say at that time hadn't really seen many lures. And I think that was a big part of the deal, really.
I think so. I know guys, we had talked to guys that started coming there after we were done, making all our trips out there. And I think they put it together a little bit, but I think that was at the end of when that fishery is taking a dive. I don't think this fishery is doing the same.
I don't either. So many of those fish were deep. I think that a lot of guys, when they caught them, they kept them or they killed them even if they let them go.
Yeah, because they wouldn't fizz them. They wouldn't let them back or put them back the right way.
Right.
Those people kill and eat everything over there, and I don't get it. But
when we were down there, that not on the first trip, but the chartography from Hummingbird, which is when I started using some of that stuff even before I was with them, that's actually that was one of those trips was when I started working with, I decided like, hey, I need to get with, I need to use something that's got Lake Master in it, because
yeah, that would have been a game changer. Can you imagine if we had that at the time?
Yeah, that very, very first time. But so to put this in perspective, we're down there, we're catching 10-pound plus fish like at will. And these fish, they're not like they're 33 inches long. I mean, most of them, they're just absolutely like built like a hippo. They're like Country Steve way back in the day.
Yeah, they're short and stout. Yeah, they were Country Steve at the 100-pound extra mark.
Yeah.
Short and fat.
So, honest to God, we had a double going on, and this is where the first guy gets thrown under the bus. Do you remember this? The guy that stole my candy bar.
He ate your lunch.
He was eating my candy bar. I want you to visualize this, producer dude. I turn around, and Country Steve told this guy, he was like, I ain't known this guy real long, but you don't mess with a short, skinny kid's lunch. He's gonna chew you up. And I start ripping. This guy ate my lunch.
So he just like went into your bag
no, he went into the cooler. Yeah,
and just ate
rummaged through everything.
Because me and him are back, we're doing everything, which is kind of part of the story. I want you to visualize this as a non-fisherman, but being around all this. Like, what would you even do? You know, I want your input of what you would say if you're in our shoes. So we're back there, and this guy was like, again, we're making short passes at times because the current is strong. Like I think that's why we did well there. If we understood the current thing, people up there I don't think did, because it was like what we deal with on Lake Erie or Saginaw Bay or anything. Anyhow, this guy is like he's like wanting to help, but it's like a little kid trying to help you clean fish with a butter knife. You're like,
but he's not going to reel any fish in.
He wouldn't. When we were clearing lines, because we had tons of lines out, just like we did today. But we got 3 dudes to help. He wouldn't touch a rod. We had to reel them all in. He just sat there. And we're like, bro, like, help out. He's like, I'm the driver. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I'm the driver. I don't reel lines in, and no wonder my other tournament partner, went a different way. But we didn't need him to drive the boat, because on the back of my...
This is where I knew that me and you were going to be friends. I don't know if I've ever said this. This incident right here. First of all, you knew about the skinny kid lunch. That's a bonus. But right here, think about this, producer dude. The kicker motor. We're using a kicker motor. This, again, 20 years ago. We have a tie bar that goes between. You have to physically put the tie bar on. Okay?
Yeah, it was the old Panther style. Yep.
Right. So you have to put this bar on. And when you put that on, the big steering wheel on the boat, the vroom vroom, makes them both turn. But we're only using the little motor.
Got you so far.
Just like today.
Yeah. Right.
You want
so
to
we have the trolling motor up front. Is because that's what we use. That's what I started using to drive. So we had that, and it didn't have a remote at the time, so we had to bring back the
foot pedal
all the way down past the driver's side, so he knows the cord's coming to the back. So I'm adjusting the speed with that. We take off the tie bar, so he's back. He's in the driver's seat of the boat, turning the motor with no tie bar. So I'm in. We're
He's not doing anything.
You're not driving the boat. He says, "I am the boat driver."
I'm the driver. I'm the driver. He kept saying it.
It's like a little kid.
It was like a little kid at an amusement park, and like it wasn't 5 minutes of him not knowing what he's going to do. It was like 8 hours, and then at one point,
so he thought he was driving the whole time.
And this is where I was like, "This is the perfect type. Me and this asshole have to be friends." Steve takes the foot pedal because this guy doesn't realize that we're steering with that motor.
Right.
Are you guys even though he's staring at it.
Are you guys just looking at each other dying?
Again, you have to remember, I don't really know Steve, but I know a fellow asshole here. And he takes the pedal, and so this guy's, he literally like drives us like we're going to hit this island.
And then yells at the guy.
and so he's doing this, and he's turning, he won't turn. And he's turning right at it, and then he's like, and then he turns back, and I'm like, oh, this guy's a jackass. I like this guy. This is my type of dude right here. And I'm like, this guy still doesn't know. He ate my lunch, and he still doesn't know he's not driving, and he won't help us. Like, you're done.
And he was verbally... The guy was verbally abused because I did not want to fish with him. I mean, I flat out told my other guy that was there.
They're stubborn up there. We were smoking the fish, and he was like, "No, we need to leave here. We don't catch them here." I'm like, "Bro, we're smoking them." We're
sending them pictures.
We're
showing them pictures.
The show never aired, to my knowledge, because they didn't catch anything in the other boats. We actually at one point
caught 2 fish.
We took 2 fish in 4 days, or what? I don't know. Specifics honestly don't remember exactly the numbers on that. You're better with that stuff than me. But in fairness, and this wasn't like this was a me and Steve thing tournament. We're trying to legit help this guy. We took the couple lures that I had that were just smoking them. We had multiple lures catching, but we had 2 in particular that were smoking. We put them in a lunch bag, put it with air, and threw it over to them, right, for them to net. Like, we pull up right next to them, like, dude, put these on, put them this far, did it right here, boom, here's the wave point. And the guy was like, they couldn't. I mean, they were trying to tune them. I'm like, don't tune them. Dude, we just took these off our lines. They just didn't. They didn't understand what was going on. And
the one guy understood, my tournament partner, and he got the 2 fish or 3 fish, whatever they got. But the other guy, oh my gosh, with the owner of the lodge, it was. I can't say the words, but yeah, it was just like a mental. Yeah. And I gotta try to be politically correct.
Wow, so Steve being politically correct.
Well, is that even a thing?
I guess it is. Not.
So
PC Steve.
And that day, I mean, I want to hear this in your words because I've talked a lot here. But so, I mean, I've got a 35-inch walleye that I caught in Lake Erie. You know, state record with eggs in it. I mean, it's 14 something about eggs. I've caught some big fish. I got a 15-1. Still, the couple biggest fish I've ever seen were on this day we're talking about. Later in the day, me and Steve are both hooked up. Now, you know, you wonder why I carry 3 nets in the boat. You know, today, I mean, I needed them actually. We had 4 rods.
How about my strength today?
Producer dude, he was pretty amazing with the camera and getting the nets.
One arm
the nets, and I had 2 donkeys. I get like a 30-incher and a 28, and I'm like, oh my god. And I'm trying to. At any rate. I digress.
I just wanted a little props. That's all.
You did really good today, right. And you didn't get seasick. And
continue.
I'm going to give you a cookie. So, still, I'm going to set this up, and you bring me home. This water where we're at, you could see, I don't know, 20 feet down. I mean,
easily.
And at that point, so people understand at home that maybe aren't fishing in waters like this. Maybe you're fishing in some kind of Tantic-looking, you know, Lake of the Woods or something. If you're seeing in water that you have 10 foot of visibility, if it's 10 or 30, it doesn't matter. Walleyes get stinky. And it changes the whole game on what you have to do. And we adapted to that and we're able to figure it out. But me and him both had a fish on. We have 1 net. Again, I don't know Steve well. He's trying to be like, I got this, I'm the man. And I'm like, no, I guide. I do this one-handed myself all the time. You take the net, then we'll double scoop, you know, but we're communicating this as we're reeling. And we lost. I mean, we got 1 of them in ultimately because it was like a parlay going on.
Yeah, we got the smaller of the 3.
We get this fish and it's like 13.5. And it's the only time in my life I think that I've ever landed a teener fish that would win the fall brawl for everybody. I mean, a giant fish of a lifetime. It's laying in the boat and we are both audibly pissed because there's 2 fish that we saw, I don't know, 20, 30 feet from the boat, but they looked like a beluga whale down there. And we saw the fish we got in, and we now know. We put it on a scale, 13, 5, or 6, or whatever it was.
The 3.
And we're like, me and him kind of both at the same time, we're like, that was 13.5. What was that? Biggest walleyes I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I mean, the what was it? 30, it was a little over 32 inches.
I don't remember.
But it was 22-inch girth. And the only reason we knew that is because we took fishing line and cut it. The boat.
I do remember doing that. Yeah, because I'm like, I've got to know down the road.
And you asked your one of your guys at Game and Fishery there in Ohio, and the guy said that was a little over 14 pounds. We were guessing 13, but he said, I think it was Travis.
Could have been.
That you talked to. Anyways, but I mean, we're trying to measure this up, and it's freezing cold. I mean, this is in November.
It was brutal. The last day of this trip, not to jump ahead, but the last day of the trip, it actually iced over. Like we couldn't launch the boat launch. Like there was, I don't know, half an inch of ice or something that had formed overnight because it just went to no wind, and it was brutal. But yeah, the trips there, I mean, it was always something. But I still just remember us kind of looking at each other like, what in the hell just happened? Because you catch a teener fish, but yet 2 of the biggest fish I've ever seen in my life, walleye wise. Probably.
And they would just come up. I mean, they would be down so deep, and you'd have 50, 60 feet of line out, and they were straight under the boat. I mean, you just had to reel this little micro reel, this little 300. You know, you're like this, and it's so cold. That was the thing. I mean, it was an amazing time. But you know, when they come on under the boat, and you can just see your bait swim away, and you just see this walleye just hovering. And then just slowly go away. And, you know, and you just had a 14-pounder in the boat. And these were, I know the water magnifies, but you know when you know.
Well,
it's not a fish story. It's a know when you know that They were probably in the 15s, maybe 16. The one you lost was probably 15. The one I lost, it seemed bigger than that. I mean, that.
No, I would go with that. I mean,
I was ready to break a rod. I was so mad.
I've had 15s. I've had them over 15 in my hand that I snagged in the river as a kid. Like state records shit. And then I've had a 15-1 that I caught, out there on Erie.
Yeah.
But again, when they get that big, you got to scale them because you just don't know. But I can tell you that when you have a 14 and it looks substantially smaller, we shouldn't even beat this up anymore because I'm 20 years later, I've not let him forget about this. I do bring it up quite frequently.
I think you brought it up one of the shoots we did in the spring.
I dare it to you. I'm ripping his ass.
I don't like catching sheephead, but if I ever want to go sheephead fishing, that is the greatest sheephead fishery. Do you remember running those dipsy divers down there 60, 70 feet?
We had to back the boat up, and at the time it was a 250 horse. We had to take the 250 horse and drive at them because we couldn't get them in. They get down there, they're like a barn door, and they turn sideways. The reels, those reels have 16-pound drag to them. That's if you tighten them all the way down, 16 pounds will still pull out.
Yeah.
You couldn't take it up. They would pull that out.
Wow. It was amazing. It was crazy.
But that's also that it was not that day, but it was that trip where what happened was this show of a show was over with. And do you remember, I'm going to go the throw under the bus train. Me and Steve are like, we got to stick this out. You want to fish another couple days? And so we made, changes to do that. And that next day we came back, and Steve is an amazing boat driver. Country gets her done on the wheel, and this boat.
Oh yeah, they got pictures of that.
If it was 20 feet from shore, it was far because I felt like I could have reached out and broke my arm off on a tree because it went from it was 3 feet and then it was 100 feet. And the waves were so nasty that we looked back and they had like a 180-foot Coast Guard cutter following us out in the open water because they're on the loudspeaker basically,
what are you doing?
Yeah, what are you guys doing? And we've got a long way to go back, and we're in this tiny
as in 25 miles or longer.
Yeah, in this little skinny stuff. But we went back that time, and this is where I was like, this is rough, Steve, rough around the edges. One of our Canadian buddies used to call him 50, and I'm like, 50 like the rapper, and he's like, no, 50 like grit sandpaper on your face. And so we go back to the dock, and we've got two giants in the live well. And me and him, we let every single fish go. But we had these two giants in there. And again, this was ironically doing some work with in fisherman. And I had some stuff coming up, and we're shooting slide film. That's how long ago this was. Digital did not exist, or at least it didn't to the common man at that point. And so we had slide film. And Steve, of course, doesn't know freaking 35 millimeter camera slide film, which is really tricky with the exposure and stuff. But basically, it's just keep banging them out, and it cost me $3 every time you hit the button. So we go back. Do you remember we went back to the dock and the guy there? And this guy
in his mouth, and you're like, just leave it alone, leave it alone, leave it alone. I'm like, dude, he will not shut up. He will not shut up. Because you went up, and then you came back.
I got the camera because it was so cold. I left my expensive camera and stuff, so it didn't fog up or in the cottage. And then we're going to film in the nice water by the dock there. Yeah. And I come back down, and I'm like, just let him go. And this guy finally had got to the point where he was like, yeah, you Americans can't catch shit. And he's got two guide clients in his boat. And Steve unleashed on him where I was like, oh, this is impressive. This is impressive. Coming from me, I don't say that often, but do you remember
he just would not stop. And then I showed, he just went off, and then I think his clients wanted to hire you.
Yeah, that's what they did. They were like, can we get a business card? And I said, hey man, you got to kind of stick with what you do. I can't do that up here or whatever. Because I felt bad for the guy, but he basically dug his own hole. He just
kept running his mouth, and I just said, dude, we just went out. We caught 20 fish, or 23 fish. 23 of them were all, or 22 or 21 were over 10 pounds. We had like 2 9-pounders. And he said, no, he didn't. And then I just started showing him pictures. And then I went to the live well, pulled these fish out in front of his clients, and just, I'd had enough.
I don't know. It is funny because that was literally when people ask me all the time, I'm like, dude, how do you and Country Steve meet? This is the story of how I met Country Steve. And the shenanigans 20 years later have not stopped. I promise you
Not one bit.
No. But, we had to have you on and talk a little bit about stuff. And I guess just leave me with this. I gotta understand this a little bit from your perspective, because I do a lot of promotion stuff. I mean, I've been on a lot of things, magazines, TV stuff, whatever. Me and producer dude, we pump out a lot of content. People love this Country Steve. I mean, producer dude, you've heard
it was born.
I mean, how many times have you been in the boat with me and people are yelling stuff?
I've even heard it when I was incognito that one day. Remember, I was at the boat ramp and that guy was yelling to you down at the dock, and I just I stay out of it. You know, I've been 20 years. I've done half the shows with you, but I'm always off scene. I'm always trying to help.
I mean, now he's a star.
You just got done arguably one of the biggest shows in. Not that I've done one of the biggest shows, period, in the outdoors. You just were a camera boat driver for. When pinch comes to shove, I need country, and he doesn't need any glam. He rolls his sleeves up. He's a blue collar, get her done guy.
I'm not the camera guy. I don't like being on. You know it. I despise being on camera.
He says that.
I think he likes it a little bit.
He says that. Once this Country Steve thing blew up a little bit, I saw it change.
I agree.
Even this year tournament fishing, I still did not go on stage for one of them.
Well, but I think you're much more comfortable now, and I think you're embracing this. You've embraced the Country Steve thing, even to be on the shoot where, if you want to know how Country Steve got the name Country Steve, make sure you go back. I'm sure you can put a little video link on here.
It's going to pop up right in the top.
Up in there. And that's how the name Country... This was not planned. This just literally, he showed me some filthy nastiness. And I was like, what? None of it surprised me, mind you, but it's just like, you can't give somebody a nickname. Like, it's got to be earned or just worked.
It was earned.
And that one, I mean, nobody saw it coming, but here it is.
No.
But while we're all still here, I mean, producer dude, give me a synopsis, because you've been in the boat with Country Steve. You've seen the development, I would say, of Country Steve and just Steve the person. He's a lot slimmer than when we started, for starters.
Yeah.
But tell me your thoughts.
But I never stole your food, ever.
No.
You know better. Quite the opposite. Steve brings me snacks. He knows how it works. But give me, I mean, you've seen the evolution of him and to now what is Country Steve. He went from 50 grit sandpaper to Country Steve, but what are you seeing there?
I've seen him. You don't know which Steve you're going to get in the three. I think I've shot with him now 3 times, and I think
at least.
I think I remember maybe 4.
Oh, more than that. You did.
I don't think so.
You did multiple. He was multiple camera boat drivers.
But I didn't know. I didn't know him at that point. I'm saying the ones we've done recently.
I think we've shot together at least 6 times.
100%, because I can name them off. Just the winter one going down east, the spring one. I mean, that's just boom, boom, boom.
Right.
Yeah. But I understand.
Anyway, so you got this gruff guy the first day, and I'm trying to put a microphone on him, and he's just kind of
screaming rape.
He's just growling at me more than anything. I'm just like, what is it? This guy did, how did Ross get this guy? And then I remember talking to Ross after it, and this was after Country Steve kind of blew up, and I remember, like, he was on it today. He was funny. And then I think it was the Lorraine shoot. He was angry again. So I never know. I never know what I'm gonna get with him. At first I was like, man, does he just hate everybody? But I'm just
equally.
It's just how he is.
The answer is yes.
It's just how he is.
Yes is the answer. In fairness, he does this for me, though, to help me out, because he doesn't give a shit about it. So
that's clear.
Yeah, that's clear. So sometimes it's like we get like, hey, I think, and you finish this country, but I like how I refer to him now, just as country. But I think that, like, there's days where he's like, I really can't be here because I got too much shit going on with life and work, but I committed to you, and he makes that commitment good. But then there's other days like, hey, I need to get away, and hey, let's have some fun, because, I mean, he legitimately loves to fish. Me and Steve go fish in the Gulf of Mexico. We go on trips over here.
Except trolling. He's not a troll.
No, dude, that's fake news.
All right.
But I mean, me and him go on trips all the time, just because I don't put everything on Instagram, people. I mean, you don't get to see everything. So that's why you see things pop up. It's 5 years later. And some stuff that me and him do, we've made kind of agreements like, hey, we're just going to shut this down. This is just me and him doing something. So,
yeah.
But I think in fairness, there's that where, he just like man, this kind of sucks. Because, I mean, doing what we do, it's how I make my living. It's not necessarily...
It's not fishing necessarily.
Well, it's not fun. I mean, like today with what we did, we ran 50 miles on the Great Lakes today.
There's stuff you have to do.
We had to do it, given without getting into details. That's what we had to do to make this all happen. And we caught some giants. But producer dude, I'm looking at him over here, and he's like sucking it up because, you know, he gets seasick. It got to get a little nasty, and, you know, we got a 30-mile freaking run, man. It's not fun. My pocket doesn't like it. My back doesn't like it. And that's what these people that are sitting at home and they're like, oh, and they're watching these YouTube videos. I don't think they really understand all that goes into doing it that day, let alone all the stuff me and you working on our trade for 20 plus years and all the gear.
Well, you know, just like that one shoot we did for one of your past, it was 10 years ago, where we went way north and we sat down on that spot. I'm like, dude, I just don't feel it here. And then we moved.
Oh, yeah. We both looked at each other like, we got to roll out.
You're like, take us where we want to go. And so I drove the boat, and I'm like, all right. And it was, how did I know the fish were there? I don't know the fish were there. It just, you got that feeling when we set boards out, and it was a 6-pounder, then another board, 8. We couldn't even get 6 rods out. I mean, in that shoot, and that guy, you know, what was he? Had $300,000 worth of cameras, 100.
Between both setups, we had $500,000 in cameras around us.
Right, and that shoot was a 3-day shoot, and we got it done in less than 8 hours. I mean, the shot at the shop, the shot up there, and it was just, we didn't have it dialed in, but we just adjusted on the fly and had
made it happen.
And I told you, I said, dude, just relax. Let's enjoy it. Let's just go fishing. And you relaxed. We enjoyed it. We went fishing. And we knocked it out of the park.
Well, it's easier. It's like today when I was trying to talk, and, you know, part of what we do is you're a host. I mean, what I'm doing, you're a host. And it's hard to host, run the boat, and see what's going on, watch all the rods, and pay attention, make the changes, read the current. And that, you know, that was kind of the case today. I mean, I even made the comment today. I'm like, man, I need somebody else here. Where's Country Steve at when you need him? But
he really did say that.
I did say that.
And you asked me to go today, and I just work. I couldn't do it.
But producer dude did say that we do better when it's just me and him. And I'm like, well, I think he's a little afraid of it. So in closing, because this has been amazing, I think people now are going to be like, this Country Steve guy, he really is a piece of work, but maybe he's got a little bit of a teddy bear in him too. Where do we see this whole Country Steve thing going? Like, I mean, are you seeing it or hearing it outside of
T-shirts, mugs?
T-shirts. We got a T-shirt guy.
We do have a T-shirt guy.
But no, I just do it to help you and to hang out. And, you know, you and I even talked about, I don't want to say his name, but one guy kept commenting, and, you know, I said, hey, let's do a little fish off.
Suburb Kyle?
Mr. Kyle. I don't think he's ever answered your call back, but, you know, hey, I'm up for anything. Let's give it a whirl. You know, Ross and I have a trip planned to Louisiana. I don't know if it's just you and I are going. If it's just you and I are going, let's bring the cameras and let's do it.
Yeah, we're definitely going to start doing more of that stuff. Me and you have talked about that, some of the kind of things that we don't need to get into now. But it's Steve is in Country. Excuse me. He has actually corrected me before too, by the way, if you remember.
I believe it.
Country has embraced the camera thing a little bit because I think he's more comfortable, but it's all in good fun. Like, it is just about really fishing but having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes you forget that, and you know it. You get wrapped
he
up.
forgets that. There's no doubt about that.
It is, you know, it's just
you got it all on your shoulders. I mean, this is your living. It's not my living. You know, I try to help you to bring you back down so you enjoy it, you relax, and that's, you know, what I bring to the boat. So you're not doing everything.
You're the calmer guy.
Yeah. Even when I help you on guide trips, you know, especially, you know, when they sit down in the middle and you got 6 rods going off and they're going to have lunch. You know,
I had that guy the other day.
I know. You're
10 years later, but you know, my buddy, I guess we'll close it with this. I mean, we're here to have fun. Hopefully people are getting a little charge out of the Country Steve things, and you can learn a lot. I mean, Steve's an excellent fisherman regardless of what he's fishing for. He picks up on stuff so quick. I think when I first met you, that was the thing. I'm like, dude, this guy outfish you in your own game. Like, don't you show him what you're doing, it's over with. But, you know, another guy that we've had on the podcast, Fred Zink, is a good friend of mine. Pretty big deal in the hunting world, you know, especially in the waterfowl world. And I remember him telling me, again, about 20 years ago when I met him, and I said, I made a comment kind of in passing, just me and him. I said, man, you're pretty damn serious about this hunting thing. Because, I mean, and I said that to him as a compliment because he's a super smart guy and he's intense as all get up. I mean, we're very similar in a lot of ways. And he looked at me and he's like, I'm real serious about it. He's like, this is how I put food on the plate. This is how I take care of my kids. This is how I make my living. And if you ain't serious about it, it don't end real good. And I look at that as the same approach with fishing. It's a lot of fun, but it's still my job. And I have to do a lot of things that I don't want to do. And
right.
You've just like today, I mean, you've got to put fish in the boat. Like we don't have a video today. I burnt a ton of money and gas today to bring these people. I hope they appreciate it. Instead of catching 3-pounders, I knew where we could catch some bigger fish. And it worked out. But, you know, do the people sitting there watching this for free on YouTube, do they really care that I spent, you know, a couple $100 in gas to make this happen? I don't know. But
I don't think people really understand, you know, what it takes to do what we're going out and doing, and, you know, to be able to do that and repeat it. We just don't happen upon this fish, you know, the fish that we're going after. It's a lot of research. You know, my wife calls it, you know, science. And I never looked at it as science, but, you know, we go after and we science the fish. We do.
I think part of this was to let people see, you know, I get so many people ask about the country Steving. The other part was to get them to know country Steve a little bit more. But I think where it kind of went too is just so people understand that, as they say, it takes a village. Like people see me holding up big fish or whatever. And I feel, correct me if I'm wrong, producer, like I give credit to the guys like the Gary Roach or when we had the Al Linders and those guys on. It takes a lot of people to make this work. Just like producer dude behind the scene. He's just as vital to the whole big water fishing deal as I am. Absolutely.
Yeah. This is getting way too lovey.
I know. I think I need to tell somebody that.
Steve's talking about building a community here.
No, I'm not building
I think it's time to go. What is going on here?
Down.
On that note, before there's anybody's getting any hugs, because I know he'll just turn around and punch me. I think that we need to be done. I think we could do this again, though. I feel like just telling the return story to that particular trip would be... There's been a lot of shenanigans through the years. I mean, maybe if we had Big Head on here, that would be just too much, but...
We don't have a big enough screen.
See, there he is. He has those digs. He likes to keep them when nobody's watching.
Nobody's paying attention. Yeah.
Well, thanks for taking the time to join us here, everybody.
We'll have to get Shorty Craig on, the brains behind
the shortest podcast ever.
Yeah, the electrical part of it and the building of stuff that this guy can create is just it's just amazing what this guy can make.
Shorty is a massive part of the Bigwater deal. There's no doubt. Like I said, there's a lot of people that make this whole thing turn, and just because like Shorty refuses to go in front of the camera, so if you can get him on here, I would probably even buy dinner, so you know how big of a deal that is.
That'll be a first.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So, at any rate, thanks for tuning into the Bigwater podcast. I am Ross Robertson, as you know, and we have the man known as currently as Country Steve, formerly known as 50. And if you don't know why, go listen to it. But make sure you check us out on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, bigwaterfishing.com, Bigwater. Producer dude, did I forget anything?
Nope.
That's good. We're out. Until the next episode.